June 17th, history in Hawaii.
Canoes everywhere you look. Dozens and dozens of canoes escorting the Hokulea right now.
Tonight, we revisit the incredible accomplishment of Hokulea's trip around the world.
Look at the crowds who are greeting her as she rolls in. It is very emotional here today.
Feel the power of the moment. The pride of being part of something special. We'll bring you new perspectives of what happened on land and at sea.
And the crew reflects on what the canoe means to them.
When I stepped aboard Hokulea, I think that's when my world changed and I had one foot in the past and one foot in the present.
Plus, we hear their reaction to the hero's welcome they received.
It was just mind-blowing to see the rocks covered by people.
These are friends and they're all crying. It's kind of premonition to a kind of deep joy that I didn't expect.
Aloha! Welcome to this special presentation of Hokulea's homecoming.
Mahalo for joining us. We had the privilege of being at Magic Island as the voyaging canoe arrived on a beautiful summer morning. And we could immediately sense that this was a defining moment for our state and Hawaiian culture.
That's why we're sharing it with you once more. And now we have video that wasn't televised, plus new insight from crew members, including Nainoa Thompson himself. We begin our coverage right where we started on June 17th with a look back at the significance of Hokulea's journey.
3 years, dozens of ports, thousands of miles traveled, new countries, new continents, new oceans, guided by the old ways, the stars, the currents, the deep knowledge of ancient Polynesians, the greatest explorers of the Pacific.
Those traditions reignited by the dreamers, those who have come and gone, and the one who went. It was a tragedy, but there was also triumph.
Now, new voyagers share a simple message in a consumer-driven, plastic-wrapped digital world. Malama Honua, to care for our island Earth, its oceans, its creatures, its cultures.
The Hokulea was greeted warmly across the globe, but today's homecoming on Oahu will be powerful, spiritual. This is the canoe that saved the Hawaiian voyaging tradition, sparked a renaissance, and restored the pride, the voice, and the power of a people.
Hokulea was built to travel, to explore, to brave the open ocean. But seeing those sails on the horizon is special and historic. It means at long last, Hokulea is coming home.
E na ho makamakamae Hawaii nui o Keawia hiki ni'ihau ka helelani na kamaaina na malihini. Hello from Hawaii Island to Ni'ihau and all of you that are watching this morning.
It is such a magnificent day. It's hard to really describe exactly what this moment means, not just for Ohana Wa'a, the family of voyaging canoe that has been risen up from the sea as a result of 1975's magical moment in which Hokulea was really birthed on the shores of Hakipu'u. For the people to be here today to welcome her after 3 years away from home, voyaging in a way that she never has done before, it catches in your throat. It's a big moment.
Especially for someone like you that's been immersed in this culture for some time. We'll touch on that a little bit later. You mentioned the people, 50,000 expected today, possibly more than that. But it's not just us out here, our whole crew is here. But let's check in right now with Keahi Tucker, who has maybe the best vantage point this morning.
Welcome to history. There she is, the Hokulea, in all her beauty on this crisp, bright, summer day off Oahu's South Shore. The moment has arrived. You know, more than 200 people took turns sailing this beautiful ship around the world. And right now there are about 15 or 20 on board. The dignitaries, the backbone of this entire operation, the navigators, the captains, Nainoa Thompson, Bruce Blankenfeld, Chad Babayan, Billy Richards. I just saw Saul Aikau on the front. They're just taking it in. I think it's going to be a day we'll tell our kids and grandkids about, a day we will all remember for quite some time, a day of pride for all of Hawaii and indeed Pacific cultures around the world. We'll be checking with you in with you all morning here with the Hokulea. Back to you on land.
I want to mention something just because you saw it just a couple of moments ago, but in that opening story, you saw images that if you're not in the know, then there were some faces that you might not recognize, but very important ones. Ben Finney, Herb Kane,
Yes.
Tommy Holmes, those were the co-founders of the PBS, as
Polynesian
Billy has
Voyaging
mentioned.
Society,
Yes. Herb Kane had this great quote, and all of them have passed since, unfortunately. But he said, "No culture can persist without its objects." And what he wanted to do was he wanted to restore what was, in his mind, the most essential object to Hawaiian and Polynesian culture, because to him, without navigation, where are we? And he said, even before navigation started, he said, the most important thing is we wanted to make sure the Hawaiian people accepted this, and they did.
You know, this came at a time, and we'll talk a lot about the history of the 1970s, this movement that was happening collectively within Lahui. And it was the time when there were so many Native Hawaiians who were finding themselves struggling. There was land that was being taken away. There was land that was being lost within Ohana. There was this identity crisis that was not unique to Native Hawaiians, but was truly the experience of indigenous people around the globe. And it was these three kane, these three men who came together, who talked about what can we do to give inspiration to our people. And it was this dream of theirs to find a way to give Native Hawaiians something to be proud of, something to reclaim and call their own. And at the time, there had been a lot of discussion that Hawaiians had ended up here by mistake, that we had not purposefully navigated to settle here in these islands. And so that was really, it was of this scientific experiment and of this, desire to create this like social strength that Hokulea was born.
I remember when I was ready to go, was when we were in Pokai Bay in Waianae, and we were anchored offshore because it was because of the surge, and it was about 11 o'clock at night, and I don't know his name because he didn't care to share it, but this Hawaiian boy, strong boy, swam out in the dark, in the black, and strong enough to climb up the catwalk and get on the deck, and in the wet, in only his shorts, he just curled up and stepped on the deck. And, that's when I knew we were ready to go. That was worth it.
Coming up, from Australia to Africa and New York City, we retrace the path of the historic voyage around the world. Plus,
this is heavy. I need to start working out a little more. Wow.
Captain Ka'iulani Murphy shows us the ropes aboard Hokulea.
The international portion of the worldwide voyage began with Hokulea and Hikianalia sailing together from Hawaii to Tahiti in May of 2014. From there, Samoa, where more than 2,000 people gathered for a climate change conference. It was here that Hokulea crew members were gifted with a message in a bottle from United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Then on to Aotearoa, where the Va'a returned to Waitangi Bay for the first time in 29 years. It was an especially meaningful sail as 2 Maori voyagers from New Zealand served as crew members. And it was a homecoming of sorts for Hikianalia, which was built in Aotearoa in 2012.
Aloha, this is Haunani from the deck of Hokulea, and we are sailing across the Gulf of Carpinteria on the northern coast of Australia.
In April of 2015, Hokulea departed for Australia, while Hikianalia returned to Hawaii to continue the educational component of the voyage back here at home on each neighbor island. Hokulea's voyage to Bali from Australia marked the first time the canoe sailed waters beyond the Pacific.
Aloha, this is Bruce Blankenfeld aboard Hokulea in the Indian Ocean.
From Mauritius, Hokulea would make her way to South Africa, eventually arriving in Cape Town.
Due to weather conditions, we couldn't stop at Madagascar. We were able to stop by the southwestern shore, where we gave our aloha to our ancient ancestors who traveled there from Borneo about 7,000 years ago. We were able to do a chant and some songs and give our aloha to them before we embarked into the Mozambique Channel.
By the time the canoe reached Richards Bay, Hokulea had sailed more than 10,000 nautical miles from home, touching the African continent for the first time.
We're more than halfway around the world, and every inch that we move now, we're heading back home.
From Africa to Brazil, as Hokulea sailed into the Atlantic for the first time, the entire country was celebrating Carnival.
We left Cape Town about 16, 17 days ago, traveled about 1,900 miles to get here. Over 1,200 of those miles, just only open ocean, nothing to guide us but the kupuna, the aumakua, and the akua who are constantly with us, both seen and unseen.
Hokulea then moved into uncharted waters yet again, this time the Caribbean, with a visit in the U.S. Virgin Islands before continuing on to Cuba. By March of 2016, Hokulea had reached the continental U.S. for the first time, stopping in Florida. At Cape Kennedy, the crew visited the NASA Space Center in honor of Hawaii astronaut Lieutenant Colonel Lacey Veach. In 1992, while in space, he had the idea to take Hokulea around the world. From there, the Va'a made her way down the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., and eventually up to the Hudson River in New York City, where Hokulea was the focal point of World Oceans Day and honored by the United Nations. It was a chance to hand-deliver that message in a bottle once gifted to them by UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon.
This is one of the culminating moments, I think, of the worldwide voyage. We're going to the United Nations, and we're bringing with us all the messages, the declarations, the stories of hope that we've gathered from around the world.
Next stop, the Panama Canal, where the canoe re-entered the Pacific after nearly 18 months. From there, Hokulea and her crew sailed to the Galapagos Islands, then Rapa Nui.
This evening, right before sunset, we spotted Rapa Nui, which you can see here in the background, approximately 43 miles offshore.
After a week on Easter Island, it was time to set sail for Tahiti. In March, Hikianalia left for Tahiti as well to rejoin her companion canoe so that both Va'a can end the worldwide journey the way they started it, sailing side by side.
Aloha, this is Ka'iulani Murphy coming to you from Hokulea on Lake 31, our voyage home from Tautida, Tahiti to Hawaii.
You just saw there at the end Captain Ka'iulani Murphy, one of the rising stars among Hokulea's next generation of navigators. She's been around the world and back, and as you can imagine, life aboard a canoe isn't exactly glamorous.
Finally back home on Oahu, she took me aboard the Hokulea to share a side of the voyage most of us don't get to see.
This is our kitchen. So the galley box with our 2-burner propane stove. This is where all the action happens. So we have pots, pans, dishes, cutting boards, knives, all the kind of stuff we keep them in here.
This is the kitchen cupboard.
This is the kitchen cupboard, exactly, yeah. And one of the most important things in the kitchen cupboard is the coffee maker.
Oh yes.
This is where most of the work happens while we're sailing. So we have our steering suite. And typically, you know, one person can be manning the sweep at a time. But if it's really rough, maybe we have 2, 3, sometimes even 4 people on here.
Can I feel how heavy it is?
Oh,
is it heavy?
If you're pushing it down, you can feel how heavy.
Oh, yeah. It is heavy.
Yeah.
This is heavy. I need to start working out a little more. Wow. So Ka'iulani, I know you get asked this all the time, but how do you use the bathroom on Hokulea?
So our bathroom, it's usually very private and very open and free. So we typically will have a canvas curtain here that we can close, and this is all kind of shut off, so you have your privacy. We put on a safety harness and we hook up ourselves to some part of the canoe, preferably a piece of wood, and then we just hang off. So,
wow.
So there's no toilet seat, but it really is a very, it's a very liberating feeling.
I'll take your word for it. And then when you're showering with salt water, not fresh water?
Yes. So the fresh water we bring is only for drinking, cooking, brushing teeth. So everything else that you typically use fresh water for at home, we use the ocean water. So we have a bucket that we'll shower with. We use a bucket to get water for washing our dishes, you know, sometimes just washing the deck to clean it up, washing our clothes, we do laundry. So another exciting thing that happens back here is the fishing. So it's all hand lines, pulling up our fish right here so they can bring it in, and then all the, you know, they'll just put it right over here to start cutting it up and cleaning it up. Yeah.
Can you show us where you sleep?
Oh, sure, yes. Actually, from here you can see these, each of these like covers of these compartments, our beds are usually on top of that.
Every day is different. So we have rainy days, we have rough weather days, we have really sunny hot days where people are what we call making skinny and hiding behind the mast to just get a little bit of shade. Yeah, it's nice. I'm kind of thinking back to like, oh, the fish you catch and night rainbows at nighttime and just the stars. Sometimes it's overwhelming how many stars you can see. And yeah, just the sounds, everything out there, sounds, the smells, everything kind of is intensified when you're out in this canoe that you're separated from everything else.
When we return, history unfolds. Watch as the first of the voyaging canoes arrive at Magic Island.
Aloha everybody, it's showtime. The sun just came out, the water is turquoise, canoes everywhere you look, dozens and dozens of canoes escorting the Hokulea right now. It just switched towboats. It's now going along at a pretty good clip, 4 knots, about 5 miles an hour, heading toward the tip of Magic Island. We are just outside the surf break here. Ala Moana Bowls on the inside. A south swell is running and you can actually feel the swells coming in. I hope all of these canoe paddlers are okay toward the entrance of the harbor because it's going to start rocking and rolling here in a little bit. Just an incredible spectacle all the way out far offshore. As far as you can see, boats, people blowing their own poo they brought with them on their canoes, tossing flowers into the water. And on board the Hokulea just smiles, flashing shakas and saying hello to the supporters who've come out. People are starting to shout out well wishes and cheers. And yes, from here we can see the tip of Magic Island now. And this, I believe, is the first moment the Hokulea crew members are seeing what awaits them. We're feeling the vibe as the Hokulea makes its final approach to Magic Island and its triumphant homecoming after 3 years.
Coming up after the break, Hokulea arrives.
We're here front and center as history takes place in front of our eyes.
This has to be such a proud moment for so many people.
This is a Hawaii thing.
Yes,
definitely. And it proves to us what we can do when we stand on the shoulders of the people that came before us.
Plus, powerful ceremonies. And a moving speech from Nainoa Thompson, the man who took Hokulea around the world and brought it back.
Thank you, Hawaii. Thank you for the moment.
Hokulea's return after a 3-year journey compelled tens of thousands of people to come to Magic Island to cheer it home.
The canoe traveled the world, but its homecoming means more than the end of a daring voyage.
Fields of lightning, gale force winds, strong currents.
Hokulea symbolizes the rebirth of the tradition of wayfinding and the rejuvenation of the Hawaiian culture. Now we revisit the day it came back.
This is going to be one of the moments that I cherish for the rest of my life.
And we hear Nainoa Thompson's emotional speech thanking Hawaii for its support and Eddie for his bravery.
That act of Eddie on a surfboard paddling to an island he cannot see was the greatest act of courage of all time.
Eddie, of course, such an important figure in the history of Hokulea, along with so many others. Aloha again, and mahalo for joining us for the second hour of this Hawaii News Now special look at Hokulea's homecoming.
When we left off, anticipation was building as dozens of canoes and watercraft joined Hokulea off the South Shore, moments before its triumphant return.
Now we rejoin that historic day as Hokulea pulls into Magic Island.
We talk about Lacey Beach, and we'd be remiss if we did not mention how unbelievably integral he was to the inception of Malama Honua. He took a photo from space looking down at our Pai'aina, our Hawaii Islands, and he thought, what if Hokulea were to sail around the world? And it was that moment in 1992, I'm covered now in chicken skin, that he shared with Nainoa Thompson, and Nainoa just kept that in his mind. It was this voice that grew louder and louder, and when it came time to sort of decide what was going to happen with the Polynesian Voyaging Society, how would we move forward in generations, how would we ensure that this reclaimed ancestral knowledge of celestial voyaging without the use of any modern day instruments, how do we bring up another generation of wayfinders and navigators? He came back to this idea of Malama Honua sailing around the world, and that was a result of that conversation he had with Lacey Beach.
And we've seen the reaction worldwide because the world is listening. I mean, we had the World Conservation Congress last year. Everyone was talking about Hokulea. Everyone was talking about where Hawaii was as far as conservation and sustainability. And then you think about what Hokulea has come full circle with Papa Mau coming over and teaching the wayfinding to the Hawaiian people, and then having to go back and teach it back to the people of Micronesia, and how that's spreading throughout the course of Polynesia and across the world. Hawaii is on a platform where they are able to now be the experts and to spread this knowledge to the next generation and to everyone across the globe.
And here she comes now, our star of gladness.
You can start to hear the cheers as the crowd grows here at Magic Island, and Hokulea makes its way to the mouth of the harbor.
Look at the crowds who are greeting her as she pulls in. We've been hearing the cheers throughout the morning, but this is definitely the loudest and most enthusiastic we have heard this very large crowd be here this morning.
You can see the kia'i who are standing on the floating deck that was erected specifically to allow for a point of anchor for Hokulea as she makes her way in today for her homecoming ceremony. They're there to stand guard to ensure the security, the safety of all of the crew members. And behind them, of course, you can see Hawaiian Water Patrol, the U.S. Coast Guard, our own EMS, emergency services, and lifeguards. And here she is in all her glory.
Everyone has their phones out as they capture this historic moment, a moment that has been decades in the making, with Hokulea sailing around the world for the past 3 years. We've seen such a resurgence of the Hawaiian culture, whether it's the language, whether it's hula, chanting. I think even in our lifetime, we have heard so much more of it, and this has to be such a proud moment for so many people. As you have mentioned, Billy, for whether you're Hawaiian or not, it is very emotional here today.
You think about that back in the 70s. Gosh, Hawaiian music and the Sunday Manoa, that resurgence of the music, the hula. That's when the Merry Monarch Festival was starting up, and here's Hokulea 41 years later, stronger than ever.
Stronger than ever. She's just beautiful. Just to look at.
Isn't she gorgeous? Look at her with her
so gorgeous.
crab claw sails up,
all wide open,
and our Hawaiian flag flying.
You have to forgive us. A couple of us took breaks to record this for ourselves. Because
okay.
Again, we're here front and center as history takes place in front of our eyes.
The keiki in front of us have already started chanting.
And there's some of the early warriors on that vessel right now as you're watching her come in. There's some of the 76 crew members on there. And all the way down to, some of the ones who just became seasoned navigators on this voyage. That va'a right now is representing so much more than just a double-hulled canoe.
Absolutely.
When you look back at the history of Hokulea and you talk about, the 70s, it is amazing to me when you read the historical accounts that we could have almost lost this culture, and for it to come full circle here today must be so emotional and just a culminating moment for so many people here.
Definitely. I think, Billy, you nailed it on the head when you said that, it's a symbol of strength, or she's out there looking so strong, because it is. It's an indication, and this isn't, let me be clear, he Hawaii au, and I'm proud of it. But this is not a Hawaiian thing. This is a Hawaii thing.
Yes.
Definitely. And it proves to us what we can do when we stand on the shoulders of the people that came before us, whoever that is, and you believe in the knowledge that they hold, and that knowledge has application today. That's why, Steve, all the things that you were saying as it relates to Malama Honua, sustainability, it's because we're just Hawaii, relatively speaking. For some people, this little place, Ivainakonu, are right in the middle of the ocean, but we have so much to offer and share. And I think this is a symbol of that as well, that we are a very strong people and a very strong place.
You can hear the crowds getting louder as Hokulea approaches the dock, where the crew members will be disembarking in just a few minutes from now.
You can see Nainoa Thompson right there at the center of the canoe, making his way to the front.
Right.
I'm sure there's got to be a lot of emotion going through all of them, him in particular.
The fact that Hokulea managed to circumnavigate the globe, covering more than 40,000 nautical miles over these last 3 years, and not a single safety issue. Every single crew member came home, and with them they have brought knowledge that has been collected at every port along the way in this mission to Malama Honua to care for our island Earth. All of that, initiatives, sustainability, preservation, the importance of just, again, taking care, is on that deck right now, returning home to be shared with the people of Hawaii.
Let's talk about safety for a couple of moments. We've talked all throughout the morning about Hokulea, and we haven't mentioned one name, and that's Eddie Aikau. Of course, we lost him in that second voyage that was supposed to go to Tahiti, but ever since then, safety protocols have been put into place. Every single voyage has had an escort vessel, and now if you train with a canoe, there are a lot of safety things that you have to go through to make sure that things are pono, you are right, and that you are knowledgeable, you have that manao to sail, whether it be Hokulea or any one of the vessels in the Ohana Va'a.
Eddie's sacrifice for Hokulea is exactly what has kept the legacy of this Va'a and Ohana Va'a alive today. He knew how important Hokulea was when he got onto that surfboard to paddle for help in 1978. When Hokulea had capsized after leaving in rough weather, inclement weather that on this day and age they would not have left. It's something that Nainoa Thompson talks about a lot. There's no reason to rush. The ocean provides, Mother Nature needs to be listened to, and had they done that, perhaps it wouldn't have happened. But he left, he paddled out because he knew that Hokulea could not sink on that day, that everything that they had managed to accomplish from 1975 to the maiden voyage in 1976 needed to continue on. And so because of his importance to the Polynesian Voyaging Society and Ohana Va'a, there are members of the Aikau Ohana on board Hokulea right now for this homecoming.
And Nainoa fought him, right? Because Eddie wanted to go and he said, no, don't go. In fact, he threw a life vest at him, right?
He did. He wanted him to take a life jacket as he made that paddle away, and Eddie took a couple strokes, took off that life jacket, threw it back to Nainoa and said, I'm more comfortable without it, brother. And that was the last.
And we needed him through the whole voyage, but me personally, I needed him there. And I mean, for instance, we went to Madagascar, gale force winds came, waves stacked up because against the strong currents, broke on the bow. It tore up our security canvas 15 feet in one wave. The rain is not vertical, it's horizontal. So there's no way to protect the crew. The crew is inside and it's cold and it's lightning everywhere. Crew members are crying and they're all huddled up. And the reason why you needed Eddie was to make sure when you're most afraid that he can show you courage.
After the break, a warrior proves his worth.
A rarely seen ancient Hawaiian tradition sends spears soaring toward a member of the Hokulea crew.